standing here in an area kind of northwest of the Badlands, but still part of the alluvial gravel field from the uplift of the Black Hills. So there's all these different kind of rocks. I do love being out here. I can truthfully say this is the genesis of a lot of my jewelry and my adornment that I make, and I utilize the agates from this homeland that I belong to. Yes, the Fairburn agate, which is South Dakota state gem, that could be found here as well. But I'm not exclusively looking for that agate, because somehow after all the years of looking for it, I resign myself to the fact that I let the agate find me. Yeah, but I do make a lot of discoveries here, different, what I call all these prairie gems that are around me. There's chalcedony and jaspers of every color, fossils, petrified wood, so many unique things here, quartz of different colors, you know, so this is like a treasure trove that I guess a lot of artists, they get inspired by something. This is my inspiration, the landscape, the clouds, the sun. Off in the distance, I see the Black Hills. Really, this is the place to come for me to gain my inspiration as well as material to work with. Welcome to my studio. I guess you've already seen the origins of my artwork, but this is where I guess I kind of get down to business. You know, I was out rock hunting and looking for whatever, but you know, that, just to touch on that again, that's a place that really inspires me. Not only am I looking, but I'm seeing and feeling and thinking, and you know, but anyway, all those senses kind of come back here, and I have my tools around me. You know, I've been at this endeavor here for, let's say, nigh on almost 40 years, you know, it's giving away my age, I guess, in some sense. But yeah, so what I have around me is a culmination of talking with other people, learning from other people. I have never really been formally trained as a metal worker, an engraver, and a lapidary artist, but all these things that I've come upon have happened in a sense of an evolution of ever since I started as a little boy. You know, I know I was gifted by my grandmother a traditional dance outfit, and I think that was my genesis of actually wanting to make things and do things, because I don't know how many times I repurposed my little outfit and fixed things up and added things, and you know, so it's just been ever since then I've been making things. So sometimes I don't really like to be known as an artist. I'd rather be a creative, because I've done so many other things. But what I have around me is a combination of a focus of finally kind of what to say. Now I know what I want to be when I grow up. Here's my workbench. It's kind of self-contained for everything I need and use. And behind me is a stump that I've had for many years. But I engrave a lot on my jewelry. So this is my Gravermeister, and as well as my graving block. And I have here some of my gravers. So I do a combination of hand engraving as well as using this pneumatic tool. And there's a history behind this, because how I learned how to engrave was from a professor friend of mine who actually was one of the inventors of this Gravermeister. So this was an early prototype, and it's really been rebuilt like 3 times over. But it's something that is really part of me, because you know, this is I learned on this machine, and I produced many things with the machine. I've rebuilt it many times, and so it's really part of me. But all these tools here too, what I have, even some of these, my old tools, these are very old, and I remember I bought these when I first went to college. That was back in 1974, but since then the handles wore out, and I put an elk spike on here and a deer antler. But so these tools of mine have actually have a lot of personality. They have spirit. That's another thing I want to talk about is what I do and how I collect my stones for my jewelry. Those are earthborn materials, so I keep that in mind because everything I use somehow I believe has a spirit. So I know all my tools, they all have adjusted handles on them and such that fit only me, and even the angle of my gravers, they match my push of my shoulder. So I think I have a bone that's been grooved directly by all the years of engraving. But this here's my lapidary unit. It's kind of an antique because it's old too. It's very solid, but luckily these diamond wheels on here are replaceable. So anyway, I have some new wheels on here right now. But I have a trim saw. I can slab agates. These are nodules. So I can create like little slices of bread, I guess you could say, and you can see the agate on the inside of that. This particular stone that I'm working on, it comes from the Black Hills of South Dakota. And I feel very privileged to the fact that, knowing a lot of these stones has caused me to understand the geology of this whole area and realizing the Black Hills and how it really is providing the hydrology for this whole area, so in a sense, this rock I could say is a sacred rock and it has spirit. So I do respect these kind of things that I use in my jewelry. So I like to tell people about these stones that come from the Black Hills. So this one here comes from an area called Teepee Canyon. Here are some examples of some recent stones that I cut and polished. And if you can believe, all these come from western South Dakota, the Black Hills. Some of these are in the Badlands. And, so a lot of times when I cut and polish stones, the pattern has a lot to do with the shape is going to be, So I don't really have any preconceived notions of doing something as a product. These things are cut and polished according to what color patterns and such and what they're going to be, So that's one thing about all this is that I let the stones do the talking. And a lot of times when I do make my jewelry, I do them very simply, just real clean silver work and with minimal decoration, so that my jewelry is all about these stones. And I think the more people understand about these stones, they'll realize that this is their connection to place. A place that I believe is very special is the Lakota homeland here, where these agates, when they came up, they really came up from a time when the earth was still being created. So it's been estimated that these agates are like about 500 million years old, so here I am. So just to say a little bit more about my work and what I do, as I mentioned, I started many, many years ago. But really, my inspirations back then were, like I said, pretty much inside the culture of Lakota. But I have to acknowledge all the different people that have inspired me. And one in particular was Pawnee silversmith, Julius Caesar. But his work was really kind of founded within his culture and the Native American church. So he did things that really reflected the culture in itself and the spiritual beliefs. So that kind of work was never commercial. So under all this kind of work that you see here, the tools and equipment, I do still do that kind of work. And I kind of touched on one of those early pieces I used to do. Presently, it's in the Brinton 101 show, and it's a pair of earrings that were modeled after my first inspiration of Julius Caesar. So I just want to remind everybody, some of my work is very eclectic as far as from deep within the culture, but also to a place where I want to share so much with the greater world of the beauty of what my homeland has to offer. So I just want to end with that, letting people know that, I've been honored and I've been gifted with all these things that I've been learning all my life, that comes to a place with all the tools I've acquired, all the people that inspired me, and all the good friends and people that actually I've met through my work. In particular, all those people that want to buy my work and such. But just want to remind everybody that some of my best work I've sent to the Brinton Museum, and it's at the 101 show.